was suspicious. Every one of me, I said, baby, that don't mean a thing. My heart belongs to you now. You wear the ring. And you worry where I'm going. You worry where I've been. The people I've been talking to, the people that I've seen. I said, baby, that don't mean a thing. My heart belongs to you now. It's you that wears that ring. If you want a little last, oh baby, not baby, darling, you know that don't mean a thing. I said my heart belongs to you now, baby. It's you. going away, baby. Won't be back no more. I'm going away, baby. Won't be back no more. I've heard the word, won't be back at all. Gonna buy me a pistol, long as I am tall. Gonna buy me a pistol just as long as I am tall. Gonna shoot you in the ground, catch that cannonball. See, right, see what you have done. I said, see, right, see what you have done. You made me love you, that man is gone. see right, see what you have done. See what you have done. You made me love you like you love me.
how about that, Mr. Steve West Weston there on the uh, on the Harpin by the Sea, and yeah, 2020, early last year. It seems like a million years ago, and he's joining me today, Mr. West Weston. He started out in various bands on keyboard before finding his harmonica mojo as a front man in Western and the Blues Sonics. And he hasn't looked back since. He's become the choice harp player for Mud Morganfield when he's touring Europe, as well as Trickbag in Scandinavia, and then playing on the #1 album with Wilco Johnson and Roger Daltrey, looking very slick and pointing at us there. Can you hear me, Mr. Weston? How you doing,
I can
buddy?
hear you quite clearly, Paul. I'm trying to get my original sound thing off.
Okay, well, if you float over to the top left-hand side of your screen, there's a little green shield, and then there's a little bit there, so it'll say either turn off or turn on, and it needs to read, it needs to say turn off original sound.
Not that bit, this bit here.
Look like you've got some good help there, man.
Oh, I'm terrible. Right, it's off. Yes, it's off. It's off.
Does it say off? Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent.
Excellent. We're in business.
Thanks,
we're in business. Right,
mate,
glamorous assistant here.
Yeah, right. Thank you for persevering, man. It's awesome to see you. How's it going?
It's going fine. We're locked down like everybody. This is my first time I've spoken to another human being for a year.
Wow. Wow. I know you gig a lot. I know you're a live musician more than anything else. Yeah. How are you?
It was a year ago that, at least a year ago, that my last show, I think maybe a week ago, I was probably out in Sweden or Finland playing, and I did one more show, I think, in London in February, so around this time, and that's it.
Wow. It's how have you been keeping yourself busy? You've been practicing a lot of harp. Have you been?
No, I think I've picked it up about 3 times. It's odd because I speak to a lot. I speak to my chums, on the phone. They're kind of in the same boat. They've lost a lot of their enthusiasm. It hasn't done a lot of good for us, No.
Mental health issues to one side, but I think it's really like. It affects all of us, and to different degrees. And I'm not saying we've all got huge, but I think we need human contact. We need the interaction. We need to see live music. We need to see people doing our thing. We need to be on stage doing our thing as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised. Guitar sales apparently have gone through the roof. I wondered if harmonica sales has and stuff like that.
Maybe they have. Yeah, maybe they have. But we've in the summer we did a lot of gardening, growing our own vegetables for the first time, which was great fun. We haven't done that before. I hadn't the time to do it.
No.
And watched a lot of television.
Hooray for Netflix, hey man.
Yeah.
Right. There's some good documentaries, good blues documentaries going about, isn't there?
Yeah,
I've been swatting up on those.
Yeah, we watch bits and bobs, all things that we would never normally watch. We binge watched Downton Abbey of all things, Proper rock and roll, we are.
Excellent. So, Steve, I've got personally a bunch of questions for you.
Go on in.
That's been niggling me, and just to get to you're an interesting character, you're a live character. You've got you look cool as hell, man. I've got to be clear. I've never managed to get. I've never been cool. Like when I was 19, I had long ginger hair. I weighed 9 stone, and I played the mouth organ. I wondered why I couldn't get a girlfriend. Do you know what I mean? But mate, you've got your stagecraft and you've got your act together, and even watching that video there, the band you're in with the bands in the audience. Is stagecraft something you've spent a lot of time on? Is it something you're conscious of?
No. I mean that is something that's just developed over the years. I mean, like everybody, when I first fronted a band, I would say it was around. I would have been about 22, 23, probably.
So a couple of years ago.
Quite a few years ago. I'm 62 now, so
22, no, wow.
So it's been about 40 years ago.
But it hurt you to tell you my dad.
It was quite scary. I can remember it quite clearly being at a pub in Southend where I live, and my leg physically shaking. And I hope people don't think I'm trying to be Elvis, but it was nerves. It was actually making my leg shake. It was so scared, But as it went on, you got more confident, and I wouldn't like to do it all on my own. I couldn't be a stand-up comedian or anything like that. I like having the band with me. It's a bit of a safety net having your pals with you on the stage, and if you feel that you're comfortable knowing what you're doing, there's nothing to be frightened of. but I wouldn't say I've worked at it. I just thought, you know, maybe I've seen a couple of things. I'm trying to think. I mean, I've always done something where I sing without the microphone in a quiet bit, and I can't think who I saw do that first. But it's probably one of the old blues guys in the 70s and early 80s. They were the last of them were coming over. The original guys, like Jimmy Rogers and there's a whole bunch of people, Albert Collins and everybody, and we all went to see them. You know, it's one of those guys. But I can't remember who it was, and I thought that's a really cool thing to do. You know?
So it was more of an organic sort of thing for you.
Yeah, I didn't physics. And back in the day, I'd have rehearsals, but these days I haven't had a band rehearsal for 10 years. You know, in fact, with Paul Garner, who's been playing with me for 10 years on guitar, we've never had a rehearsal. Ever.
Really? Do you feel that that's because you've got to a standard that you both are at, or what do you think that's due to?
Paul is a bit of a genius. I booked Paul as a dep when Chris Corcoran was my guitarist at the time, and he was my guitarist for many years. Another great, you know, fantastic English guitar player, everybody I'm sure knows. But he can do a show, I think, or for some reason he couldn't play. And I was asking around, and someone said, book Paul Garner. And I, in MySpace, I think days, I messaged him on MySpace, and he turned up at the Blues Bar in London. I didn't know what he looked like. This guy turned him the guitar on his back. And he was a little bit late, to be honest with you. About to go on.
Mm-hmm. I've got one of those. He was a bit this morning on the drag, we like to call it. Yeah.
But I said, "You Paul?" He goes, "Yes." I said, "Great, come on, we really got to start thinking about getting on." I said, "Well, we could do a shuffle in F." He goes, "Okay, fine." And it was just, I thought, I've got no problems here. The moment he started playing, I thought, this guy has got it.
So you think it's kind of about surrounding yourself also with good musicians, with people who know what they're doing?
God, I have to. Yeah, you know, you got to be confident with the musicians. Of course you do. Otherwise, something might go wrong, sound bad. But he's a genius, and all those things. I mean, even things like before Russ played CC Rider, and that's an old one. With the blues bars, you have to play over 3 hours up there. And I thought, I just thought of this riff in my head on a chromatic, and I played it off the top of my head. I said, "Well, just follow me," and played it once, and he immediately followed it on the guitar, and that was it. And I thought, this is great. Don't know any words to this song. What I can't. I know CC Rider. I know I sing that in G. I used to do it on the piano. I'm going to sing CC Rider to that, and that's how those things evolve. And those evolve, and it's quite a popular song in our set, and it's actually one of my favourites. But it was designed to be an instrumental. That.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely when like things like that just kind of happen. Like you say, it's nice to have it organically rather than like this seems more hard work than it should be. Do you know what I mean? So you mentioned that you play the piano. Is the harmonica? You know, I still think harmonica is your third instrument. Are you classically trained? And also, what made you pick up the harmonica? What made you go?
I grew up I've done these sort of interviews before, so sorry if people hear me repeat myself, but I grew up in the 60s.
I haven't heard it. You tell me, mate.
I grew up in the 60s, and in England, nearly every house had a piano. And it was like one of the things, part of the furniture. It's from, the family entertaining themselves. Someone's auntie or whoever could rattle out a tune, and they'll sing around the piano before the days of television. This is how it works. And we had one. And it was like one of my toys. I can remember it being like one of my toys. And I used to muck around on it. And I had a cousin that we didn't see very often, but he was a classically trained piano player. And he showed my older brother how to play What I Say on the piano.
Brilliant piece. Yeah.
Yeah, my older brother, who's 13 years older than me, showed me how to play it. I learned everything on the piano from that one little thing he showed me, just by hitting the notes, and that sounded better. And hitting purely experimental. I mean, just using my ears and then learning off of records. But it wasn't until I was 17 that I actually got a harmonica. I wanted one. I think my dad bought me one a good few years before that, because he bought a blues record out of Woolworths called This Is the Blues, and it had a lot of harmonica on it. It had Sonny Boy on it, it had Junior Wells on it, it had Sammy Myers on it. And I loved the sound of the harmonica. And I'd heard it on the television with the Beatles doing Should Known Better with a Girl Like You, sitting in the train, harmonica. I'd actually seen a Julie Garland film called Pigskin Parade, where there's a guy, and his name escapes me now, but he plays some fox chase harmonica in there. And George McClung, his name was. He died when he was 24, I believe. Great harmonica player. I thought, wow, I just love that instrument. Got my dad to buy me a chromatic harmonica. It was the one I wanted. So I spent many years getting my lips sore and not understanding why it didn't sound the same. When I was 17, I was in Southend, looked in the music shop, and there was a thing that said blues harp.
Okay, I was going to say, how did you know that you needed a blues harp? When did it turn into you need a 10-hole diatonic kind of thing?
And our blues harp, and I knew it was a blues harp. I mean, it might not have meant anything to me, but I'd actually seen, my friends, we'd seen the word harp written on the back of a Dr Feelgood record, because Lee.
Okay.
I grew up on the Canvey Island with those guys. Well, I'm the generation below them, but they, we were on that very small island at the same time. And back of the album, it said Lee Wilco vocals and harp, because we just thought, oh, it's a harp. Must be
like one of those strange classical things, yeah.
Well, but of course, it was known as the French harp. It's also known as the French harp. And I now want to be known as Steve Weston plays the French harp from now on.
It sounds well sophisticated,
isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, mate, completely. Yeah.
And that was it. It had harp written on it. For God be the one. Bought it, and it was, and it went on from there.
Fantastic, mate. Fantastic. So yeah, that Canvey Island scene and the South End scene, Dr Feelgood and the R&B scene. I've got a bunch of questions. What was it like, sort of being surrounded by that and being in that? Was it a kind of scene in a community, or
It was a massive community and a massive scene. You were very, very. If you was into blues and R&B, it was so proud, because we were the centre of the country. The record was #1. The third album went straight to #1, Stupidity, in the album charts. We'd seen them alive quite a few times, and they just took your breath away, the energy of it. And yeah, they drank at the local pub. We used to go and drink at the local pub, and it was an atmosphere. They had parties at the house that was their house. It was great. And I don't know if you know this, but I ended up playing with another band called Eddie and the Hot Rods that was from the area. I ended up playing with them for a year or two, I think it was. When they made an album with Al Cooper, a famous American blues keyboard player, and he put keyboards on the album, and they wanted to go out and promote the album, but they needed keyboards, obviously, and I was the only fella on Canvey that they knew, and I was their mate, so I asked to do it. Yeah.
You hear, for me, it's like, living out in Lowestoft for starters, where there's never any scene of anything, not even like actual life. And then you hear the history. I was very privileged to see Dr Feelgood fronted by Lee Brillo back in, was it 1989? And it was just like you say, just that energy, just like you felt like anything could start in the room. You felt like there could be a fight here. There could be anything going on.
It was, I mean, when it came in, it did start before the punk sort of revolution, but it sort of went alongside it and carried on after that, changed into a more controlled, what we call the new wave thing. But they were from the pub rock and pub R&B scene, and it was everything I wanted, and my pals too, because what did we have? Supertramp. I'm nothing against all this music. I mean, everybody that's
yeah, but that was what was going about the scene, and you flew in the face.
It was a little bit soft for us. It was very sweet, very sugary. One of my good friends described it. It's like coffee with too much sugar in it. It's kind of nice, but it's too much.
Yeah, a bit saccharine, isn't it? Almost.
This was stripped down, raw blokes with shorter hair than what most bands had at the time, and wearing suits, and the songs were 3 minutes long, and it was loud and high energy, and it really did. It was a reflection of what people wanted,
And of course, you got to play with Wilco on my very favourite piece of yours, and I'm sure you're probably like, I don't know how you feel about it, because it's obviously the most famous track, but it's when that harp solo kicks in on Going Back Home with Roger Daltrey and Wilco Johnson, absolutely makes me just go, Oh, mate, I mean, yeah,
Oh
and
wow, thank you.
the energy on that whole song for starters, that janga danga 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 danga,
Yeah.
and then when you kick off with that, it's like, yeah, there's the energy. There is that Canvey Island scene in a song, as far as I'm concerned. So,
Yeah.
tell us about that if you wouldn't mind. Is that
Well,
okay?
I mean, you know that Wilco left the Feelgoods,
Mm.
was replaced by Jippy Mayo on guitar. Now, when he left, I actually went round I was invited round his house by someone who knew him, because he was looking for a piano player, and they'd heard that I played piano. Needless to say, I didn't get the job. I was totally underqualified for that job. It came to a fellow called John Potter, who was a long established great piano player from the area that had played with the Feelgoods in their early days. So I never got. So I did know Wilco. We'd sort of met, and we'd spoken, and it was the band, the incarnation I have of the band now with Paul Garner. We play a local pub called the Railway in Southend, and Wilco, more often than not, used to come and see us. It used to always be a Sunday lunchtime, and if he was free and not working himself, he would be there. And he loved Paul Garner, and he loved my harmonica playing. And of course, when he did the album with Roger, he says, "I'd love you to play harmonica on it." And that's as simple. It's sort of an old pals act, I suppose. And
Why not? Why not? Do you know what I mean?
it
You
was,
did us proud. That.
it was, and such an honour, and nice to be asked. And it was quite nerve-wracking, to be honest. But
Well, you pulled it off, dude. You really did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm trying to think where the studio. Well, I can't remember where the studio was. It was a long way away. It was dark. It was raining. I couldn't find it, and so I was late. And my one was an overdub, and I got a terrible sound in the studio, and it was awful. And it did sound.
And knocks your confidence when that happens,
It's one
doesn't
of
it?
those
Because you
things.
think, yeah.
If I was thinking it sounded all right in the studio, I went back in the control room. I thought, oh, this sounds like a jam job. Really.
Oh, no.
But I'm not in any position to say I want to do this again. Can you change? I wasn't. It wasn't my place to do that. Got in the car, and I just thought, one chance to get something, and you messed.
No, mate.
But the engineer Dave, the producer, genius. When I heard it back, I thought, that's what I heard in the room. So it was there all the time.
Yeah.
And he just pulled it out. And he pulled it out.
Relief. Yeah,
And in fact, it sounded better than it did in the room. He was a genius producer. Which, God, wow, thank you,
Because it's huge. That
Roger,
tone is
Roger
huge.
wasn't there on that. Roger wasn't on that session.
Okay. A bit too rock and roll. We was just like, nipped in, do some vocals.
I don't know. I can't remember if he'd done his vocal. Yeah, I imagine he did his vocals after mine, or no. He must have been there for me to punch around his vocal. So I did it as an overdub after him.
Okay.
I actually met him until the rehearsals for the few shows that we did.
Right. I mean, obviously, questions and things. You're obviously going to get around to gear. I don't want to tie you up on that one. But did you use your own gear for that? I mean, lots of questions in the chat about what gear you use.
So my own gear for what?
For the session. Yeah.
It's my gear. I'm a bit lacking in studio amplifiers. So what was here at that time was a Quilter solid state amplifier that was left in the country by Ronnie Boyson, who's the guitarist that I play alongside in the Mud Morganfield band, and he's from Copenhagen, Denmark. So he just left it here at my house, and I said, "Oh, can I borrow it for the session?" Because I only got big amps, and I'm thinking a little amp would be better. So that's the amp I used on that, and with my regular microphone that I've.
What is that? Please tell me. Please tell all the folks at home. I've got loads of questions from people about what your gear is. So let's go.
An EV 605 Electro Voice 605 shell that I think was given to me, or it was a swap with my friend Mark Vaness, who's a great amp technician and harmonica player. I got it off him, and it's got a controlled magnetic element in it. Nothing at all. And I said to Russ, the reason I used this mic, or started using this mic, In fact, on the Wilco album, I never used this mic. I used a JT30. But the reason I started using this mic was I was travelling to Sweden and Scandinavia a lot to play with Trick Bag, one of the other bands I play with, and I had to take hand luggage on, and it fits in this very little case I have.
Oh, nice! Oh, yeah, look at that.
So a little hat case that I found in a charity shop that I decked out, that you can fit everything in here that I need, and the mic, you can't shut the lid with a JT30. And that is the only reason I use that mic, and it hasn't got any special mojo. It doesn't sound any better than in the other mics I've got with the similar elements. It's just the size, and the size is because it fits in the case.
Well, that's a good reason, isn't it? So
I know you.
I've
actually seen it on the net as the Steve Weston mic, as per Steve Weston, and it's very flattering, but it isn't a secret mojo.
Okay. No. Where do you think your tone come? What do you sort of attribute your tone? Obviously, because it is huge. Do you think? I mean, I'm a proponent that it's, for me, it's mine is in my mouth and my throat. Where do you think your
personally, I don't think it's a great acoustic tone myself, because
really, okay.
Now everybody I hear, I think, oh, they're really good.
Yeah.
I'm only a small guy, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm a small guy with relatively small hands as well, so the whole cupping thing of it as well comes into it. My live shows in this country, I always use a 410 amp, and I have done since 1995. It's always been a 410 bass, and then a Fender DeVille, and now I have a Marble Harpmaster, and they're all 410 amps. But when I travel abroad, I have to use whatever's supplied. Be a Fender. But I do like bigger amps. I'm not over keen on the smaller amps.
No. Do you have roadies, or you ever carry them yourself?
No, I don't have roadies. But of course, when you go abroad, when you if it's a club gig, I use a borrow an amp from one of the other band members. But if we go to a festival, it's backline supplied at the festival, and you just up there and you look along the line and you see what they've got, and
I want that one.
What do you want? You want that one? Do you want that one? So I've had some funny old things to play through. I was about that this morning, but it's once I remember playing Mihas Festival, and the backline was only two valve amplifiers, and I was playing with Big Joe Lewis. We were again back in Morganfield at the Mihas Festival, and of course there was one Fender amp which had been perfect, so I loved it, but of course the guitar went to that, and I was left with a Hughes and Kettner heavy metal Death Thrash 2000. It had 1,000 knobs, 1,000,000 valves, and about enough watts to power a Nazi rally. It was so powerful with a 412 speaker cabinet. It was the most unfriendly amplifier. But I've got this one here. This little microphone is a Turner Dynamic.
That's pretty, yeah.
And it's not particularly powerful, but it worked. I had the amp on very, very quietly, put that through. Now, there's a couple of clips on YouTube of that concert, and I listened to that, and I was going straight into that amp. I thought, that sounds really good. I like that sound. It wasn't the sound I have now, but it was definitely my sound. But it's a great harmonica sound. So I've always made do with what you can pick up.
I think that's a skill within itself, Steve. I really do. I think that within itself must be a skill, being able to take whatever's at hand. Because, like you said, I think a lot, some harp players would be absolutely, unless they've got their amp and their sound, their mic and everything else, they would go, oh. But you literally went into some place in Europe, looked along the row of amps, and went, yeah,
you have to go for that one. I mean, but for the last 10 years, I mean, there's people always screaming at the screen that knows what I have been using what they call a Kinder anti-feedback pedal.
Ah, yes.
I didn't have it longer than 10 years. I got that from a great musician in Finland called Tommy Lano. It was sitting in the back of an amp. And I says, oh, I've heard about these. Do you like it? He goes, well, I don't use it very much. I says, well, do you want to give that me as part payment for the shows? I said, I'd love to give it a go. And he did. He said, oh, I don't use it. So I got it from him.
Yeah.
And I never used it. Again, it does colour your sound. It does what it says on the tin. It does cut out your feedback if you dial it in.
Yeah, I mean, I use a Boss one because I was always put off from using any sort of amplification, always gone through the PA just because of the feedback. But yeah, I've got a Boss noise suppressor, and that does the trick for me real well. Though, just the thing on that Tommy Lehner, I've got a question from Adam Pritchard in the chat there, and he's a big fan of Trick Bag.
Yeah.
And he was asking, A, how did you get the gigs with them guys? And B, did you ever trade licks with Tommy Lano at all on any of that stuff?
Well, on harmonicas? No.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a fantastic harmonica player. If you want to talk about natural tone, he's a killer. It's the MySpace days. Back in the MySpace days, I mean, once again, I'm completely techno useless, but my stepdaughter built me a MySpace page. Everyone said, you've got to have one. It's the thing. It's the way it's going. You can put your tracks on it and everything. And it was, do you remember it? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I was a bit sort of bogged down with
web...
family and stuff at the time. But yeah, it was a pre-runner to, SoundCloud.
But it was far superior because it was like a website that everybody knew how to navigate. So it was very, very good. And I got a message first from Tommy Lano as the first guy, and I knew of him. I've been watching him on YouTube, and he says, "Do you want to come over and play a few shows?"
Nice.
Remember the email? It says blues greetings. Would you like to come and play a few shows?
No, I don't want to travel
to my wife,
playing blues.
I said,
thank you.
There's a fellow. I said he's a genius, and I hope I don't disappoint them. I was quite nervous about it, to be honest, because these guys were way above my level. But anyway, I went and did some shows with him. And then within a year, I also got a message on MySpace too from Trick Bag, from Lars Narsman and Tommy Moberg, singer and bass player. Would you like to come and do some shows with us, guesting? I said, I'd love to. So I ended up playing with them. But at the time, Tommy and Trick Bag, there's Trick Bag being Sweden, Tommy being Finland, they didn't really know each other. They knew of each other, but they hadn't. And it was Anders Levin from Knockout Greg was playing guitar with them at the time. Fantastic musician again. But when he left, they got Tommy in. So it was like a circle. I played with them both, and now we all play together. And we've been sort of up to when we all had this thing.
Yes, and we keep coming back to that. Yeah.
And it is a fantastic band. It is even though I've played with them for 10 years or maybe 11 years now, it's one of the best nights out you're going to have with that band. It's a great band. We're all pals. There's a lot of energy. It's traditional blues, but not an antique. It's not sit-down music. But it's got everything you want in it. Everything you want in it. It's a show. It just sounds wonderful. But I look at the video, I think there's just six guys just having fun.
Yeah, beauty is in the eye of the beer holder. No, I mean, that's the one thing I've always heard about you is that you're such a good showman. And then when I saw you at Harpin by the Sea, there it was. And to you, like, I love the fact that you're very modest about it. But for you, it's just like, well, I just like playing my music. But we love watching you enjoy it. We love watching six guys being engaged in that. That's what it is for us,
Yeah, but it's just a wonderful thing, that band. When you get on stage, it's just superb. It's all they've always had great musicians in that band. I mean, Scandinavia's full of some fantastic players. I mean, and I'm very honoured, to be honest, because they always had to fly me out there at extra expense. When in Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and Norway, there's some harmonicas that would just kick my bottom right off.
Oh, really? That's a scene we need to look into. Perhaps we need to do a Scandinavian themed weekend.
But they're my pals, and they've sort of stayed loyal to me, and I appreciate that. But I would perfectly understand when if they ever said, what, Steve, can't afford to win you over anymore. So because I've enjoyed every single minute of it, and it's put my exposure much higher. I mean, the internet is exposure. I mean, all of us at the level that I play at, we're sort of known throughout the world within the genre because of the internet. Not record sales, you know, and it's not touring. So it's purely the internet has opened up this community of blues musicians, you know. You know, I'm internet pals, and I've met with Mark Hummel. You know, you've got coming on. Is it later today or
Yes, it is. We're very excited.
but I mean, to see Mark, you know. But I'd heard Mark Hummel record, you know, when it was LPs before CDs, playing his LPs. Genius, you know. Never would have dreamt that you'd ever meet him or be chatting to him.
It makes everyone accessible, doesn't it? And the exchange of information. And you know, people can say that the internet might be killing music, or you know, but I think you've got a great philosophy on it there, Steve. I really do. That you know, it's an opportunity to broadcast to the wider world, and it can be difficult to stand out. But I think I find personally, I find your tone and your style very, very individual, and it does stand out. And I think, like you say about, you know, we're not old blues. It's got an edge to it. It's got style. It's got class.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, I have sort of been thinking about this thing that we're doing today and what I can, you know, say. I mean, I'm a bit old school in the fact, like so many players in England of my generation and before, we didn't have lessons because there wasn't any lessons. You know, I was trying to pinpoint things that were told to me. And there's a fella called Little Paul. Oh, actually, the first is Ricky Corwin. He might even be on it because I saw him on here yesterday from Birmingham.
Yeah, he's about somewhere. I think I saw him coming. I first met Ricky when I was about 11.
Right,
yeah,
we saw him with a big town Playboys playing in Camden, Dublin.
Yes.
Camden. We saw them, and he did Shake Your Hips, and I was just talking because I played a bit of harp, but I was mainly playing piano at that time. I was talking to him, and he says, "Well, it's the octave." I said, "What?" He goes, "Well, you put your tongue on and play an octave." What do you know? I didn't think of that. Well, that's great. I was a lip purser, like everybody in England.
You've answered a question there. People were asking, "Are you a tongue blocker or a lip purser?"
No,
everybody wants to know. Everybody.
100% tongue blocker, but I was a lip purser at the time. But then he told me about that. I thought, well, that's interesting. Then there was the three things that was told. Then Little Paul Westerman, I think his name is. He played with Big Joe Lewis. I saw him, and he told me about vibrato, but he told me about a vibrato that I don't actually use anymore. But he told me how they did it. And the other one was Little Matthew, Paul Rowan. He had Little Matthew Intentions, and he says, "Well, you're never going to sound it if you don't tongue block." And I thought, what are you talking about? He goes, "Tongue block." And I said, "Well, that I don't know if you remember, but there's a little diagram used to come with the harmonica that showed you how to tongue block that came."
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And we used to go, "Well, no rubbish that is, you know." So, so I thought, "Oh my God, this is how you do it." Now, I since how it evolved. I since met a great harmonica player that's not just a little bit generation before me. I don't even make him sound like an old man. Laurie Garman.
I love Laurie. I've met him a few times.
Yeah,
what a great guy!
He's a very, very good friend of mine and a great, great harmonica player.
Amazing.
And he's friends with Paul Rowan, who told me about soundblocking as well. He said him and Paul both got that information from Rick Estring. Rick Estring came over and says, "Aren't you tongue blocking?" I said, "What do you mean? You got tongue block? That's how we all do it in the States." So that's how you learned back in those days.
Right.
Each other. Now, of course, it's there from the word go. You pick up the harmonica, you say, "Well, I'm going to go and get a few lessons from whoever."
Or YouTube, just YouTube lessons. Just go on there.
It's all there. It's all
there. Youngsters we have a microchip fitted to the back of our heads.
Yeah, but my generation, it was records, put them on, and take them. And try and play along and try and people told you, didn't you know they did that? You know, it's in your mouth. You don't see it, do you? You can't look at it like look at.
No, it's a very visualised instrument, and when I teach,
I always say, what on earth's going on inside there? I can't see. Well, you can't see. So unless someone tells you. But I mean, having said that, you probably could work it out, you know, because you've only got your lips and the tongue, so you know, that's the bits you're using. So that's how it works. But that's how I learned. So I learned old school way. So I think when you learn that way, you learn you do end up with kind of your own style, although you can hear loads of influences in my playing. I'm sure when I hear it, but I don't study anyone certainly anymore. If anybody I did study at any particular time, and I didn't study him intensely, it would be Little Walter. You know, just listening to him, I've listened to Little Walter probably more than anybody.
So people are asking, you know, I know you've got all this, you've accumulated that knowledge. You know, people teach. There's somebody asking in the chat if you do teach or have any plans to. I mean, obviously you're a Zoom aficionado now.
Well,
you
it
could
looks
do
like
you could do online lessons, couldn't you, mate? All this
I'm
is
Zoom aficionado and officially poor. So
you're going to need to do some lessons, man.
But,
it's perfect, really.
But talking to Trevor in the back room, and you were saying about Mickey Raphael, it was on yesterday. He says he doesn't teach; he's a terrible teacher. I feel I'm like that too, because I can show you what I do in 10 minutes.
Well, then please do, man.
I don't know how I can make it last an hour. And I have tried it. I've tried giving people lessons, and I've found it hard because I've found it. Because I'm not a good. You know, I don't know. You get a complete beginner. So, well, you've got to be able to play one note, and for me, there's no point in them coming to me unless they can play one.
I don't know about you, man, but getting one note at a time was probably, next to doing bounce, was probably one of the most difficult things I ever learned to do, to get one note at a time. It took me ages.
Well, it would do if you don't pick up. But you can't sit in front of someone and saying, no, that's still two notes. Still two notes. No, it's got it. It's still. Then an hour later, you say, can you pay me, please? I couldn't. I found that wrong.
I admire your morals, mate. That's brilliant.
No, but it is wrong in my heart. They've gone away with nothing. Probably feeling, oh God, I'm never going to get this. So now if people say, look, I will show you things if you want, but you need to get to a certain level because it's a waste of your money. And all I
was talking to Lee Sankey once.
The beginner things.
I was teaching beginners. Sorry, right? And he was like, you know, I can't teach beginners, so I take my hat off to you. He said they need to be at a certain level before I can show them the next bit. So I guess
and you can get that for free on YouTube. So why pay? You know, and maybe there's loads of teachers saying, "Shut up." But you know, that's why I don't teach. That's
well, that's fair enough, and I really, really appreciate it and admire your honesty, man. I really.
But anyone wants any tips, I can show you that.
Well, I think you can show us what it is you do. I mean, like even the talk about tone, even there must be some sort of the ability. I think that even that ability to be able to pick up any mic and amp and just make it sound awesome. I think if you study what you would do, that would be absolute gold dust. And I think, that would be something that many people would love.
What I do that anybody, do you, I mean, it's fantastic, your set. I caught most of it because I was nipping out doing bits and bobs.
Oh, thanks, man. Cheers.
Playing. So are you tongue blocking or bits of both, it sounds like?
Bits and pieces. I'm primarily a lip purser. But I do the tongue blocking when I need to sort of do the self accompaniment, like do the chordal bits with the tune going on out the right hand side. But if I'm just doing single notes, there's a run of single notes, I lip purse the whole run.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, as Aki said yesterday, whatever suits you, and at the bottom, getting to the bottom of the page, it's the music that counts. And if you like it, then that's all right, isn't it?
Well, you see, this is where we get to. I have another question for myself here about your philosophy on things. I mean, the harmonica is your chosen instrument, or maybe it chose you. But do you have a philosophy about music and the harmonica encompassing each other as a whole? Is that something you feel quite deeply and intensely about?
You might have just lost me a little bit there. I'm not that bright. But what do you mean by?
Well, do you have a philosophy about the harmonica and music as a whole?
Do I? I don't think I wouldn't. I mean, I absolutely love the sound of the harmonica. There's a couple of things that I absolutely love, and they make me feel good when I hear them. One's a harmonica, and especially the amplified harmonica, if it's a fantastic sound. The other thing is the Hammond organ. I love the Hammond organ. I mean, it makes me feel great when I put it on. I put Booker T and MG's on, which is one of the best bands in the world as far as I'm concerned. I feel great now. So there's that, but I don't know, really, Paul, I don't know what I can say about that. I mean,
sorry, man. Perhaps I've garbled that right up in the translation from someone. But you know, it was more about.
I love the music, and I love all. I like the variety of within the blues field of harmonica playing. I like the variety. I like the signature stuff. So when I say by that, I mean like the Masters had a signature way of playing, a signature sound, like Sonny Boy, Sonny Terry, Walton, George Smith, Little Walter, like the big guys from the golden era. They're all unique, and you can really hear them. James Cotton, Junior Wells, you can really hear those guys. You know, they weren't virtuosos. That you know, I can't do lots of stuff on the harmonica, but I suppose it's keeping it simple for me. It's what maybe I'm using that because I can only play simple. But
well, you see, now I tend to agree, because I'll never be Jason Rickey. I'll never be John Popper, which is what I really, really want to be. That's it. You know, that's my personal heroes. You know, you have your little balls and stuff. Those are my guys, and I'll never be able to play like that. But what I can do, and what you're inspiring here, I guess, is that you can be you. You can be individual. You can have your own sound. You can have your own tone. You can have your own, you know, style.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Harmonica Sam and all these people that made fantastic records might not be great harmonica players. You know, I mean, I know it's sacrilege, but I actually like Bob Dylan's harmonica on Bob. I love them because if they had a session harmonica player playing on that, it wouldn't have that vagrant sitting hobo on a train puffing and puffing down a harmonica. You know, was it Neil Young was owned Heart of Stone or what?
Yeah, Heart of Gold.
But that isn't that an integral part of that record being so great?
Well, here we are singing it. We all know. We all said it. We all know that harmonica riff, and he can't even play one note at a time. But that doesn't matter,
but that rack harmonica breathing in and out, it's got so much honesty in it that I think that's what that record needs, and that's what Bob Dylan's record, when he plays, it's got a lot of honesty in it. It's totally honest. He's not saying I'm a great harmonica player. He's playing the harmonica along with his guitar, and it's what a hobo would sound like, you know.
Well, you see, that gets to the point of you know, when I was playing earlier on, people were asking, you know, you're not, you know, you how you play, so you're just backing up the guitar. You know, how do you not overplay? Well, you just play less. Let the song breathe, just what a song needs. And that Heart of Gold there, that is just literally just what that song needed. You know. Yeah,
but can you imagine, you know, Lavi Adler playing on it? It would sound like no, it would sound good. It's no question, but it's not got that basic honesty of a bloke singing that way with that harmonica, you know.
You're absolutely right, mate. You're absolutely right.
It's
yeah, I really do.
It's not that intellectual. It's poetic. I'm trying to be clever, but I think, you know what? It's just the honesty of it.
It's what it makes you feel. You know, what makes you feel.
Great music is great music, and obviously having all the chops together is really great on a harmonica. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to make great music. Great music comes from you. It's in your imagination and in your inspiration, and in the blues harmonica world, it's very conversational. So I know a lot of people do it because I can see why they would do it, but to actually, I don't get told off for this, but having out a Little Walter solo, he made that solo then, and that's the way he's talking.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I was talking to Adam.
Somebody tabbing out what I'm saying to you, and say that like this, and you'll sound just like Steve Weston's talking. But it will. But it you know.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's an accent.
You know, he
wouldn't play the same. Most of those guys didn't play it the same way twice anyway.
Of course, it didn't.
And it didn't matter, and it doesn't matter, does it? Let's face it.
No.
It's the emotion that's conveyed. And what you say,
It's
when
the
we watch you
passion.
six guys, we watch you, you're passionate, you're doing it, and that's how we want to feel how you're feeling, you know?
Yeah,
It's a
and
communication. I think we've got to the heart of my question, mate, that I garbled earlier on. I think
yeah,
we've
yeah.
got to,
I'm trying to, but I know so many people think different ways. But then that. I was thinking that too. That is, it's entirely up to you what you want to take the music from. You know, because you take classical music, it's all repeating what's already been done. Someone else wrote it. It's somebody else's voice. But the thing with the blues, and especially blues harmonica, is a very vocal instrument, and you're expressing yourself. For the next, pretty much the nearest thing to the voice, isn't it? It's right there, you
That's what
know.
Mickey Raphael said
Vocal,
yesterday.
vocal
Exactly the
cords
same thing,
there,
man.
did it? And the reeds here, you know. It's, I mean, all readings perhaps are the same, but you're expressing yourself vocally, so you don't have to play a lot. And a bit like a singer playing scales when he's singing a song, doesn't sound very good, but he only has to sing a little bit, and it's all it needs, and it sounds wonderful, you know. So expression through it, and
I think that's brilliant. I think that's absolutely best
is that
advice, mate. I
what
think
is that
you
understood?
absolutely hit the nail on the head, mate. Thank you
I'm
so
not
much for
making
bearing with me on
excuses
that.
for my poor play.
No, we are getting a lot of
Abilities.
requests for you to play us something. Now, a lot of people. We've got like 15 minutes left to this, and a lot of people are asking you to play us something. Can I absolutely twist your arm into playing something
I
for us,
don't know what
please,
to
my
play.
man? First thing comes to you with what you got going on.
I don't do solo. Oh, so I've just said. See,
Yes.
I think he said there's a link to my email where you can order this. Obviously, in England, it's reasonable. I believe once I send to the continent now with the change in things.
But yes, please support West. He hasn't had a gig in a year. Do you know what I mean? Please buy a CD. We'll put your link to
Yeah,
your site and your details in the chat, mate. Please
understand when if you're buying abroad, there's going to incur some costs because it's all changed this year.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I don't know what it's going to cost.
Don't mention the B word. Don't mention the B
don't
word.
like the B word. It's
Me either, mate. I totally agree with you. And then we agree on something else again. This is great.
But I'll tell you what. I won't play so much. But there's a couple of little tips that I've told players that maybe explains how might be part of my sound that other players don't do. Now, when you lip purse, you probably put a syllable on the front of the note. When I say that, it's like a t, you know, but your tongue rather than other than that, it's just the note you're putting a syllable on the front. Of course, when you tongue block, your tongue's on the harp, so it's a reverse cough. Now, a lot of players don't do this, and it sounds fantastic and it works, but I do, and it might be what you hear when you hear the punch in what I play. With that reverse cough, it helps with bends if you're tongue blocking and bending, because it's a totally different technique. You're not using your tongue to bend the note; the tongue's on the harmonic. So, like with Walter Horton, I mean, or Walter Horton style, and I don't even think he does it himself, but it's like that. Try to do it without the cough. It's but if you put that little yeah. Yeah, there's
yeah, it's a lovely punch.
Can you hear that? What I mean? Now, I don't think many, not everyone does that, but I do it all the time. All the time. Of course, when it's a blow note, it's a yeah. It's that tongue on all the time, you know. So that's the way I get the percussive edge on the front of the note with a reverse cough with it. But it to me, you can hear it, especially when you amplify. It puts a punch, and also if you're trying to do the bends like that 3-draw 2-step, I think it's called, isn't it? When it goes down twice. See, I don't know. if you put the cough on it, you'll find the bend goes in. So without it, you go. But, it helps you hit it. Does that make sense to you, Paul?
Totally, yeah. No, that's great advice, Stephen.
You
He
know,
said he
because
wouldn't. He couldn't teach me.
you're
I know that
hitting
is
the note.
Yeah.
You're hitting that note, and tongue block bending. When people often find a struggle with that, they find, well, I do all tongue block after number 4 because all the bends I like to do it lip pursing because it's a bit easier, you know. But once you've mastered the tongue block bend, I find it to be a lot more accurate. But of course, putting that on it will bring it down. You know, the 2-draw bend.
Loving your hand technique, Steve. I'm loving that. That's a really
small
nice
hand,
cut.
small hand technique.
No,
yeah.
it's lovely. It's just really tight. Yeah.
So another little tip is vibrato. When I do vibrato, I don't do the monkey backwards cough thing that a lot of people do, which, you know, is like the Butterfield thing. I do a softer one, which I hear is probably more like the one that Sonny Boy does, but I wouldn't know. But it's the one I do. It just is that. It's just that one. But
nice.
The technique I use is I play the note I'm playing vibrato on bent. So it's a 4-draw bend, and I'm vibratoing it, and the vibrato goes up rather than playing it clean and the vibrato going down. So I'm actually playing that, but with the vibrato, it goes up. So a bit like a guitar string, you bend it up and you wobble it down, yeah? So in my mouth, I'm saying the down note. I'm not saying the up note, which is the other thing of tongue block bending. I actually say the note in my mouth as if I was singing it, but I'm going backwards.
So that's superb because I guess that creates the tone there and creates the shape of the note.
It's because it is a talking instrument. How I say it, I see it a talking instrument. So I don't remember to do it all the time. But if you know your way around the harmonica, you kind of get the feeling that you know what it's going to play when you're doing it. So you can actually sing it. Obviously not with any noise, and you're going backwards more often than going forwards. I actually sing those notes. So I go wah-ba-doo wah. I'm going. It's that I'm saying it in my mouth. I'm saying that note, and that kind of maybe helps with my tone.
Steve, this is fab advice. You could teach this. This is great, mate.
But this is. I mean, we've done 5 minutes and it's done.
No, I have more questions. Do you tongue block your blow bends at the top end? And which side do you tongue block out of, or do you switch?
I switch. Right. I'm totally dyslexic. My right side. I play the note on the right side, except hole 1. I go to the other way.
Okay, so the rest of the harp is all out of the.
I don't know why I started doing that, but I decided that if I go on the post, it's which people like Lloyd Garman, he said, I just go to the post. The post at the end. I decided that I would put my tongue there for hole 2 and then switch it over for hole 1. And so I can do it. So my mouth doesn't go anywhere, it just goes into it. But your muscle memory in your brain sort of remembers it so much, so after a while, I don't even think about it now. You know, and there's nothing I can't do with that. Yeah,
well, it creates a lovely tone, man. And like you say, you play so often, it does go in the back computer, and you kind of forget how you found out yourself, don't you?
It's. I mean, Victor. I mean, both Victor and Aki are friends I've met over the years. I mean, I've shared stage with both those guys. Unfortunately, but they. it's vocal. I mean, another thing that it's left behind. I mean, it's a big fat tone. It's a big fat deep tone. You listen to some of the Sunny Boy stuff. It's a really front of house nasty.
Yeah, it's very bright and very spiky, but it cuts through and it does what you need in the moment, doesn't it?
But it's another feather in your cap, another voice. But it's and you are literally saying you know. Yeah, and the other one, handshakes.
More of that, please, dude. Just do a bit more.
People have stopped doing handshakes because they think the head roll sounds like.
I do both. I do both. You do both.
Yeah, you should do. I mean, Walter Horton is very.
Mate, what you said about your acoustic tone not being great earlier on is utter tosh. That is fantastic.
It sounds a bit thin to me.
Not to me, mate. Even over the internet, it sounds lush. Your hand, that tight cup on there is absolutely peak.
Well, it's not tight. It's not.
No, it sounds it. It sounds
the other thing. It's this. Look, all this stuff.
That looks tight, man.
Yeah, but look what it was here. I mean, I know people. They do the whole thing. They break. They up the cheek and they get this fantastic tone. Tommy Lano plays like that. Now he plays total. I mean, he's got a bigger face than me. He plays total cheek blocked, everything like that. He's a tone blocker. I've heard him play in an SM57 in the PA. I wouldn't bother taking an amp. It sounded fantastic. It was just, I thought, what? Oh. And then we had to swap and he handed the mic over. And of course, whispering in the wind, it was nothing compared to that tone he has. He's a phenomenal musician, great guitarist, a great drummer, great bass player. He started learning the piano a few years ago and he's picked that up. He could play a gig, put it that way. He's one of those natural musicians.
Yeah, swine, annoying.
Yeah, and I think he's like me. We don't have musical knowledge. We don't know type signatures. We don't know notes. I played in a swing band called Rent Party in the early 80s to mid 80s, and I as a piano player. And it wasn't until I played with them that I really got to know what the names of the notes were on the piano. I didn't know what B flat was.
Wow. Yeah, but you felt it.
I'd heard of it, but I didn't know where it lived.
Yeah, it's just coming across to me that you have a lot of feel for your music, and it's something that I was talking to Mickey about it last night as well. I struggled as a young musician. I did music. I did music at school. I was part of a harmonica school. We were taught note for note. I read music and stuff like that. But I had a real difficult, and maybe it was my upbringing, or maybe it was something like that, putting my emotion and how I felt into my music to be able to convey that. And it seems to me like you seem to have tapped into that to make us feel how you feel when you play the harmonica, and I think that is an absolute.
I think it's called honest. As much as you can, your honesty. I mean, it does get a bit lost sometimes. You just play your treading water licks, not water, little water, but just treading water. You think, play. But if the band,
I think that's a name for a song. That dude, that's a great name for a tune. That treading water.
Treading water. Yeah. I could do spelt water. Yeah.
Please do.
Good instrumental name. But it's if the band behind you is good, it's much easier. If the drummer's right and everything's right, you don't have to do a lot. It's all going on, and it sounds better if you don't do a lot. So the overplaying thing. But then again, I thought about that. It's all a matter of taste. If playing lots of notes and overplaying is your thing, and you like that, who to tell you you're wrong?
I think that's an excellent point. I really do. I really do.
I mean, people are very, very passionate about music and all sorts of music, and they all have people are passionate. People are passionate about rock blues, and it gets a kind of a bit of a bad name. Now, I'm not a fan of it, but the people who love it just as much as I love the stuff I love. And who am I to say to them, stop loving that? You're wrong.
And
Yeah.
like you said about the internet, we've got it all available. We've got like decades of all that music to choose from now, and there's so much to choose from. You can get really niche on this stuff as well. And why shouldn't we?
Another thing, and
I've opened the box now. He's on his
I
high
thought-
horse. Come on,
I
Steve.
thought, yes, I'll have the coat off in a minute. Another thing is you've got to realise that those old guys that we try to emulate, like Sonny Boy, Little Walter, and such like, that obviously they didn't have lessons and they didn't have loads of, but they didn't have a lot of influences. They just had a few guys before them and the big band era and things. So their imagination was what was emulating that stuff. Nowadays, you could be I want to play the harmonica, and you've got 1,000 CDs on your wall, or iPad, or whatever they're called these days. But you've got so much stuff. Where do you get your inspiration from? You're saturated with it. So I don't know, but I get the feeling sometimes when you've got only a little bit of influence, your creativity is more creative, which you're working with less. I don't know if that's true, but
well, I think it needs must as the devil drives in a way, isn't it? And like if you have less stuff to deal with, you've got to be more creative. If you've only got one sheet of paper and one pen, you can only draw in one colour. So you've got to be more.
You just naturally are.
Mm.
I mean, when I've done quite a few chromatic instrumentals, and if I sit down, I can come up with something that I'm really proud of. But the influences are definitely from Hammond organ. Without a doubt, that's where I get the influence for that sort of thing from.
Yeah, that's interesting because I go for guitarists and rock guitarists and indie guitarists. I look for their phrasing, for their attitude.
Well, just the attitude, the general flavour of it. The groove. The Hammond instrumental is more often than not it's a groovy thing. Well, the thing that I like is the groovy side of things, and that's how I adapt it to playing the chromatic. But I haven't got a lot of I have got a record, but I still only listen to Little Walter, But and I've said this before, it can't all be done. There must be another blues giant out there waiting to come up. You say, listen to how Paul Delay. Now you listen to him, and he's a completely different approach to most players. It's traditional, but it's different. William Clark, you went, what? It's massive.
William Clark's tone on that chromatic was absolutely insane.
But it's massive and it's simple. Well, his influences, I mean, they're you can see with Junior Wells and Cotton and Walter. It's all there, on those coast players. But and of course, I can't do an interview as such without mentioning Kim Wilson, who's without doubt changed the face of harmonica playing for modern times, because he is the bar that is set incredibly high. And he's one of the reasons I actually decided to take it seriously.
Fantastic, that's great. No, he is on our wish list for this very festival, mate. He really is. That would be a dream come true. Steve, mate, I think I could talk to you absolutely all night, and I thoroughly intend to next time we get to hang out in Brighton, man. Because I wish I'd spoke to you more at the time, but it was a lot going on, man.
I'm a very lonely man. You can phone me up at any time.
I might well do that, buddy. Let's swap numbers after this. This is great because I think I could learn a lot from you.
You're welcome to it if I've got anything worth giving. Yeah.
Well, just the wealth of your experience, your honesty.
And I can zoom now. Look at that.
Yeah, we're zooming, baby. So just your honesty, your wealth of knowledge, your experience. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. There's been absolutely loads of people just saying lovely nuggets of information. I agree with you about the music stimuli. Excellent. And I got you to play as well, and you said you wouldn't have sneaked that out of you. So people were loving that too, mate. Thank you so much, ever so much. Oh. Everybody, can I just see a show of hands in the air, everybody on Zoom for Steve West Weston, please? Give him a clap.
Look at Steve, that. Thank you, fellas, up the top there in your little boxes.
Yeah, man, they're all along there. There's 100 odd people in the next room, all watching you and stuff like that. It looks like the start of the Muppets in there. Only better looking and stuff.
Now I'm going to another room now, don't I?
You could go to the bar if you want to. Down the bottom there, breakout rooms. You can go in the bar and have a chat with the with the general public. That'd be lovely if you could do that, mate. If at the bottom there's breakout rooms.
For a while, if no one asks anything, I'll go and have a cup of tea.
Rock and roll. Steve, it's been a total pleasure, mate. Thank you.
It's been an
ever so much,
absolute
mate.
honour. I'm so honoured to be asked amongst these great fellas. Say hello to Mark for me, because I shall be there looking out for him.
I'll pass that on. We're going to play another little video of you from Russ is going to play a video from you when you were with us with Harpin by the Sea, if that's okay with you.
Oh, yeah, it's fine, yeah. Thanks very much.
All right, then, everybody, Mr. Steve West Weston, over to you, Russ, on the VT.
Well, I wish I was a catfish. And I was swimming in the deep sea. But I'd have all you good-looking catfish women, if you swim in oh, everything. Well, I'm broke and I'm hungry. I'm ragged, baby. I'm so ragged and I'm so dirty too. If I clean up that darling, can little Stevie come home with you? I wanna go home with you. Well, if I can't come in. Let me sit right down. I wanna sit right in front of your door. I'm gonna leave so early, darling, so you know your old man, but never know. He may never know. Sure gonna jump and shout when that big old train rolls up. Let me tell you, little old me come walking out. I come walking out. Yes, I come walking out. Baby, I come walking out. down. Sit down in front of your door. I'm gonna leave so early, baby. Let me tell you, you're a man never knew. I wish it was a catfish, baby. Swimming deep down in a deep blue sea. Home.